Hi first grade, it's Miss Martin here. Welcome back to chapter 9, lesson 9 for math. You should have just completed lesson 8 and now we're moving on to lesson 9. So before we get too into our math lesson 9 today, there's a couple things we need to do. First, we need to learn our vocabulary word before we even get started. And our vocabulary word for this lesson is halves. So halves is 2 equal parts of a whole. Each part is a half of the whole. And if you look here, they have a rectangle right here and they cut it in half. So these sides, here I'm going to move this up. So these two halves right here, they split it, are the same. They're equal. They're the same exact thing. And they are 2 halves of the whole. Okay? So we're learning about halves today. So I'm going to write that up here. We're learning about halves. Hold on one second. Okay, learning about our halves today. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this same thing. Needed it to look and see real quick. Okay, so there that's not the same size. Okay, so this is what we're learning about today. We're learning about our halves. And we know that these two halves right here are exactly the same size and they make up the whole. So if I had 2 different pieces, if they weren't together and I kind of pushed them together, I would get this and it would equal the whole. Okay? But that wasn't what I was trying to do. First, we're going to do a little example. So let's say that me and you are sitting at lunch one day and we're going to share a pizza. And the pizza comes with, there's only 2 slices of this pizza, only 2 halves. So we have to split this in half and decide, okay, how are we going to split this? Because we both want to have the equal amount, right? You don't want me to have more pizza than you, and I don't want you to have more pizza than me. So we have to split it in half. So there's a couple ways with a circle that we can split it in half. So we can split it in half by cutting it right down the middle like that. Or we can cut it with a circle. You can cut it like that down the side. Or with a circle, you can even cut it diagonally. There's so many different ways that you can cut a circle in half. Okay, but we have to practice cutting things in half or practice sectioning those things in halves. Okay, so let's say that me and you are now. So we finished our pizza and now we are going to eat a gigantic candy bar. But again, we have to split it in half because if we don't split it in half, then it's just too much chocolate for both of us and we want to share this. So there's a couple ways you can split a rectangle in half. We can split it in half again, up and down, or we can split it completely, go completely through it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, Miss Martin, what if I just split it like this? And guess what? Those are 2 equal halves because they are the same shape. Now, they might not be the same when you look at it. You might be like, oh, that's a little weird looking. But they are. They're exactly the same. Okay? The last one we'll do is a triangle. We talked about a triangle a little bit last time on lesson 8 about how we can cut this in half. So a triangle is a little weird. You can only really cut it in half like 2 ways. So you can't cut it in half this way because look at, these are not the same. They are not equal. And we really want to make sure that we're getting equal halves and equal parts. So what we did in our last video is we cut it straight down the middle and that gave us 2 equal halves. 2 equal halves when we cut it straight down the middle. Or you can even sometimes, this triangle is a little shaped differently, but you can split it kind of diagonally and it can kind of sometimes work. But really what I want you to do is when we're cutting triangles in half, I'm going to redraw a little bit. We're going to cut them straight down the middle. So for triangles, we cut them down the middle. Triangles, we cut them down the middle. Okay. So now we have kind of established our triangles, or our shapes that we can cut in half and what they kind of look like. We're going to go ahead and do a square real quick just because I forgot we didn't do that one. So square's easy. We can cut it like that. Or we can cut it like that. Or It's just like a rectangle, and we can cut it like that, and we have 2 equal halves, okay? So our whole point of our lesson today is we are cutting things in half and identifying how many halves there are. So if I look at this triangle right now, I need to, it's not this triangle, Miss Martin, this square, I need to identify how many halves are there. So there's an easy way to do this. So I have a line, so I have 1 half and 2 halves, and they are equal halves. Now if my square had, let's redraw. If I had my square and I had like let's just say I did it like this. That is not 2 equal halves. That is not cut equally. So that could not count as my 1 half, 2 half because they are not the same. Okay? If it was cut like this and there was a little piece hanging out, these are all not halves because they are not the same. They are not the same size. So you can't say these are 3 halves because they are not the same size. Halves must be equal. Okay, so for now, we're going to do halves must be equal. That is what we are learning about. So our halves must be equal, because that is what we are learning about today, is equal halves. And we know if equal equals same. Huh? Equal equals same. Equal means same. So they are the same size, same shape, same everything. Same amount of sides, same amount of vertices, all of that. Okay, so now I want you to go ahead and get out your Chapter 9 worksheet and make sure your name is at the top of it. So if you need to, you can go ahead and pause the video until you get that and then hit play when you're ready to go. Okay, let's rock and roll, guys. So first what we need to do is we need to draw a square, a circle, and a rectangle. So we are going to draw our square, our circle, and our rectangle. If they are not drawn amazing, that's okay. Just try your best. And then once those are drawn and you are ready to go ahead and hit play, pause the video while you draw those, and then hit play once you're ready to go. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. We're going to practice drawing or cutting these shapes into 2 equal halves. So just like Miss Martin just showed you all those different techniques for cutting those in half, I want you now to try and do this. So for our square right here, Miss Martin is going to go ahead and cut this straight up and down, and I'm going to number my halves because I have 2 equal halves. So go ahead and do that right now. Okay, if you're not done, go ahead and pause the video and then hit play once you're ready. Okay, now for our circle, I want us to go ahead and we're going to cut it in half. So I'm going to cut it this way. I'm going to draw a line through the middle of it. And I'm going to label my halves as well. And then down here for my rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and draw it across for just like that. And I'm going to label it as well. 1 and 2. So make sure you have this. Pause the video if you don't. Practice cutting them in half. Once you're ready to go, hit play and we'll move on. Okay, so we're going to flip it over. Okay, and in our see and show, they're just reminding us what we just learned about halves. So a whole that is separated into 2 equal parts is separated into halves. Each part is a half of the whole. So like right here in these rectangles, we have 1 half, 2 half. And if we were to put them together, they would make 1 whole. So we have 2 equal parts, or also known as 2 halves. Okay, so here we go. We're going to practice doing some of this. Some of you might be like, Miss Martin, this is so easy. Oh my goodness, I can do this all on my own. And if you can, you're a rock star, way to go. But if you need some help, that's totally okay too, and I'm here to help you with this. So for number 1, they want us to write how many equal parts make up the whole. Boys and girls, we've just learned up here that 2 equal parts make 2 equal parts make a whole. So if they want us to find out how many equal parts make up a whole, how many do you think it's going to be? I'm going to take a guess and think that it's 2. 2 equal parts equal a whole. But we have to do our work and make sure that it is actually right. We have to double check and make sure they're not trying to trick us, because sometimes they like to do that. So let's look at number 1. They have this square here, this square here, and they want us to see how many parts there are. So let's go ahead and count our parts. We have 1 part right there and 2 parts right there. How many equal parts do I have? I have 2 equal parts. Good job. Okay, let's move on to our circle real quick. Let's count how many equal parts our circle has. We have 1 part right here and another part right here. How many equal parts do I have, boys and girls? I have 2 equal parts. Great job. Even though I can't hear you or see you, I know you guys are doing amazing at this. Okay, so number 3, it's just like the front of the page. They want us to draw some lines to show 2 equal parts. And then they want us to write how many halves we cut it into. So how many halves are there? Remember, halves are equal parts. Halves are equal parts. So for this rectangle, remember I showed you all the different ways you can cut it in half. So Miss Martin's going to cut it like this. I'm going to cut it all the way across. And count with me how many halves I did. Or draw that first. Okay. Now let's go ahead and count how many halves I have. Ready? 1 and 2. So how many halves did I cut that into? I cut it into 2 halves. And if I cut it into 2 halves, how many equal parts do I have? I have 2 equal parts, because 2 halves are equal parts. Okay, let's go ahead and do this circle real quick. So I'm going to cut this circle like this. I'm going to do it diagonal. Mix it up a little bit. Count with me how many halves I just split this up into. I have 1 half right here, and I have another half right here. How many halves did I break it up into? 2 halves. And how many halves make a whole? 2 halves. Okay. This talk math question is super easy. How many halves make up a whole? We just answered that. How many halves? 2 halves make up a whole. Okay, so that is it for what I'm going to help you with. Okay, if you flip it over, they're going to have you do the same thing that we just did for 5 and 6. And then for 7 and 8, 7, 8, 9, and 10, they want you to draw the half of the shape that is missing. So I'll go ahead and do number 7 with you real quick. So this looks like a square, but it's actually supposed to be a rectangle. So I need to draw the same thing, I need to draw this same thing over here to make it a rectangle. So I'm going to try my best to draw the same thing. Ta-da, look at that. Now I have a full rectangle. And if you even want to check your work to make sure it's right, you can go ahead and label your halves to make sure you have 2 equal halves. Okay, 8, 9, and 10, they want you to draw a rectangle right here. They want you to draw a square right here. And then I want you to draw a circle right here. Okay? So for number 11 and 12, they want you, let me move this up. For number 11, they want you to color half of each shape and then write how many parts are shaded. So we'll go ahead and do these together real quick. So number 11, we're going to color, I'll do number 11 with you and you can do number 12 on your own. So they want me to color half of the shape. So we're going to color this half right here. And how many parts are shaded? Well, there is 1 part that is shaded, 1 of 2 parts, because there are 2 halves and I just colored 1. That's all they want you to do for number 12 is color in 1 of them and then put how many parts you colored in out of how many. Okay, don't forget you also have number 13 and 14 back here that you have to do. Boys and girls, if you don't get this, that's okay. You can come to our Zoom meetings on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at noon and I will help you with this. If you can't make those times, that's okay. You can rewatch this video as many times as you want and hopefully it will help you. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow for math and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.